Julia Doherty from the Adventure Geek / the Camino Talk Show. And this show is for people who are considering walking the Camino, but it's also for those people who get home and all their friends and family are fed up with you talking about the Camino, so you may want to do a bit of a trip down memory lane. And that's certainly what I'm going to be doing today with a fellow pilgrim who's sitting right here at the other side, at the other end of the world, but actually sitting here right in front of me. Technology is just brilliant. So anyway, let me introduce today's pilgrim. So we have Anita, and I can never pronounce your surname.
Audiga.
Audiga. Okay, we'll come back to that in a second. So Anita is a teacher from California, and there was quite a few from California when we did our last trip. And you have a real zest for life, but also a real zest for travel. You know, it's in your blood, I think, when we've spoken to you. And she loves England, which we'll come on to that subject as well. So Anita walked the French route in 2018. I'm not sure if you've walked it before, but we can go down that route as well. Okay, you're shaking your head there.
I have not, no.
But you also walked with your friend Denise. I'm looking forward to finding out what it's like actually spending so much time that you did with a friend, you know, and whether you'd actually spent that amount of time with someone previously before. So, hello, Pilgrim. How are
Good morning.
Good morning. It is morning over there. I mean, it's 2:00 in the afternoon here, and you say it's what time over there?
It's 6 a.m. here.
That's dedication to the Camino Talk Show, isn't it? And you're going to work shortly as well, aren't you?
I am, in about an hour, yeah.
Okay, right. Well, we won't keep you too long today. Probably about half an hour or so, if that's okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so yeah, all transparency here. I did send Anita over some questions. We're going to start off at least with the first 2 questions, and then we're just going to see where it goes. So we might not get to all the questions. In fact, I guarantee we won't get to all the questions. And we're just going to see where the conversation takes us. Are you okay with that?
I am okay with that.
All right, let's hit it then. We're going to start with the very first one. So can you remember the very first time that you heard about the Camino?
I can. I read years and years ago, I read a book called Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. And in the book, several of the characters go on the Camino to Santiago de Compostela. That was the first time I heard of it.
Okay.
And at the time, I remember I wondered, does anybody still do this? And then I just kind of left it. And that was the first time I had heard of it.
Okay. Do you know, if I keep hearing stories, it's people heard of it, and then for some reason they hear about it again. And it's usually by the time they've heard it on the 3rd time, that's the time. And it's like it's calling you. That's what it feels like. Everyone I've interviewed has said the same thing.
And that's exactly what this was.
Okay.
And then obviously the movie with Martin Sheen came out, The Way, and everybody saw it.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, people still do the Camino when I saw that movie. And then I happened to be on Facebook about a year ago, and I was reading an article about the Camino. And I made a comment, something like, I would love to do this someday. And that's when my friend Denise chimed in. She saw my comment, and immediately she messaged me and said, hey, are you serious about doing the Camino? And that's when we started thinking about really doing it.
So how long ago was that?
3rd time. That was in December. And so now it's September. So that was last Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So let's do the nuts and bolts then of what you walked. So you walked, which route did you walk?
We walked the Camino Frances, and we started from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port and ended up in Santiago.
Okay.
So
So the whole thing, the whole shebang. And how long did that take you?
We took 32 days
to
do it. And that's just walking days. We also had 2 rest days along the way in Burgos and Lyon. But other than that, we walked every day.
Wow. Okay. And did you suffer any blisters?
Oh, yes. I had horrible feet. It was pretty bad. In retrospect, I should have had 2 different pairs of shoes, but I only brought one. And I ended up with fairly large blisters around my heels and under my toes. So I just plastered them, covered them up, and kept going. And it was fine, but it was not easy.
And that first, the very first day, some people stop at the Orison, other people go on to Roncesvalles. What did you do?
So we decided, because we had heard the first part, the first half day was really difficult, very uphill and steep. So we decided that we would make reservations at Orasan. And that was on our part. After I did the second day and went all the way to Roncesvalles, I was very happy that we were both very happy that we decided to spend the night there for a couple reasons. I mean, that was a very hard piece of the Camino. I think that's the hardest part of the Camino, is that very first few hours. But then we met so many lovely people. That's where we met I think what I consider our first Camino family.
Okay.
And we walked with those people on and off the entire time. And it was always so nice to run into them again. And I'm still in touch with a few people as well. So that's where you meet a lot of people you end up walking with a lot.
Okay. And something that they do that's unique at the Orison is they do the Pilgrim Mill, but you get to, I don't know if your guys stood up. When I've done it twice now, everyone sort of stood up and did their little bit. So, yeah, that might put people off if we tell people, because not everyone's confident about standing up and saying who they are.
Some people said a lot. Other people just stood up and introduced themselves and said, this is the first time I'm doing the Camino and I'm having a good time. You don't have to be, too talkative about what you're doing or be too personal. You can just introduce yourself, and that's plenty.
So I'll tell you a funny story. Rachel, when she was 13 that first day, and it was going around the table, I stood up and did my bit, and then Rachel stood up. She says, my name's Rachel, I'm 13, and the reason I'm walking the Camino is because my mum made me. And I was like, oh my God. But
spoken like a true teenager.
I was like, okay. But yeah, you don't have to stand up and say your bit.
No, and in fact, you don't.
That first one, everyone literally just stood up and said, my name is Julia, I'm from England, and we're hoping to walk all of the, or get to a certain point.
Right.
No one really shared their real reasons why they're walking the Camino. But the second time I did it, people, it was like the first person who stood up to do it. She said, she'd recently lost her mother, and she was walking. She'd written the names of her mother on her feet, and she was walking off the pain of the grief, and the tears started. And that was the first person who stood up. And then that continued. Then it's like everyone sort of offloaded. And this is the first night on my solo trip. And it's a completely different experience from the first one.
Yeah.
What was yours like?
So ours was a mix. We had some people, like there was a couple from Belgium. They had just met on Tinder 2 months ago, and they were walking the Camino together. So his English wasn't too good, so he stood up and he said, I'm walking with my wife instead of girlfriend. So that kind of added some levity to the evening. They were one of the first ones to go. So everybody after that, it kind of lightened up and everybody started sharing. It was, no one shared anything too deep. There was an elderly guy who had severe diabetes, who was trying to get healthier, so he was walking the Camino, and just, again, a wide variety of people. So,
okay.
But yeah, I mean, yeah.
How did you find, did you stay in mainly albergues along the route, or?
Actually, we did not. Before we left, we talked about this a lot. We really debated, but she and I both really value our sleep, and we both know how we can be if we don't get enough sleep.
Okay.
So we thought if we didn't want to kill each other by the end, we would probably want to we stayed mainly in hotels along the way, and then also a mix of pensions, hostels, and other accommodations. But we did stay in 5 albergues along the way. Okay. And, as cheap as they are, the hotels are still quite cheap. The most luxurious hotel we stayed in was $60 a night, and that was for a gorgeous, beautiful, brand new, very modern hotel. So most hotels were about 40 euros, split between the two of us, which is not much at all.
It's nothing, is it? In fact, we stayed together in a hotel called the Hotel of Paradise. Or do you remember that's what it was called?
Yeah.
It was the day before O Sobrero. I can't remember the actual place.
Right. I don't remember the name. It was a teeny tiny place. There was like us, the hotel we stayed at, and 2 or 3 other buildings, but I can't remember the name. But there was a river.
There was a river and a cow or a bull or something like that. It just one on its own in the field.
Exactly. But that place was quite inexpensive. What was that? Like 48 euros a night.
That was, but to be
something
honest, the
like that.
day that we'd
Yeah.
had, because literally that was the
Oh,
day we escaped the most smeggiest Albert. You don't have to stay. In fact, we introduced you to the word smeggy. I don't think you'd heard that.
Smeggy. Yes.
We had a whole evening of talking about American words versus English words.
Right. And
I
I told you the only word I knew was grotty, and you said, "Oh, you say it so posh."
grotty, yeah.
So
That was brilliant. So we did have
yeah,
some good times. But for those
yeah.
of you who are listening, the whole point of asking that question was you don't
Hmm.
have to stay in an albergue, in
Yeah,
rickety bunk beds. You don't have to. But I think it is part of the Camino experience to
it is.
experience it.
I believe so too. And I would like to go back again and walk the Camino, but this time just stay in albergues. And we had
Really.
reservations. Yeah, we had reservations most of the way, not like the whole trip, but we would call ahead for the next night. And if I had to do it again, I would stay in albergues most of the time because I think that's where you meet people, you get to interact with people the most. And that's the best part of the Camino experience, I think, is just the people that you meet. So, and when you stay in a hotel, you're a little isolated from that. You can find pilgrim dinners at some of the albergues if you're not staying there, but for the most part, the albergues really are the experience. And yeah, so next time I go, I will stay mostly in albergues.
I was interviewing Luca last
Uh-huh.
week, and he said exactly the
Yeah.
same. He said he was given the advice to actually stay in the hotels. So he didn't actually meet a Camino family or any people
Mm.
really
Uh,
until like day 3.
yeah, and I see
Um,
that. And I think part of the reason we felt like we did have a Camino family is that the first 4 nights we stayed in albergues. So we stayed in an albergue in Saint Jean, Orison, Roncesvalles, and Zubiri. So that's
okay.
part of the reason why we had people the whole way, as we had done that at the beginning.
So when you got to
So,
Pamplona, that was the first time you sort of upgraded.
yes, so we stayed in a very small hotel on a little windy street. And yeah, so that was the first time we did that. But I think after that, we only stayed in one or two others, Tio Pepe, that one
Tio
day.
Pepe,
Yeah,
that
yes.
was great. But it was so
Loved that place.
quiet as well, as in
Yeah, very.
like we had a room just to ourselves, even though
Yeah.
you could have fit another like 5 people in there or whatever.
Yeah, we did too. It was just the two of us in our room. So sometimes, even if you're staying in a bunk room, you don't have many people. That happened again to us. We had a room of 16 people at another albergue in
Okay.
Naher, and there were only two other people in there. So sometimes it doesn't matter. Other times it was packed.
Yeah, that's true.
We
That's
stayed
true.
at Casa de Abuela in Los Arcos, and it was jam full of people. There were no empty beds, but that was that was a packed place.
That was I think if it's the same albergue, you go under the arch and it's on the right hand side.
Yes, I
I,
believe. No, that was the Municipal, I think.
that's what I said.
Tio, yeah, that one was just up a street from the town square.
Okay.
So it was like on a corner and it had three balconies on the front. But anyway, that was a crammed little albergue.
So there are like four, in my view, four like sections to the Camino. So you have the
Mm-hmm.
Pyrenees, then you
Right?
have like the La Rioja, the vineyard side of things, the Meseta,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
then obviously Galatia, which is really
yeah,
where we met you guys. So
yeah.
out of all those four, do you have a favourite?
I have to say the Meseta was my very favorite. I
Really? Okay.
love, yes, it was. I think a lot of people would disagree with me. Some people don't like the Meseta,
Yeah.
but to me, I've always lived in a place hemmed in by mountains, and you can't see far because there's mountains in the way, and mountains are beautiful, but I've always loved going to places with wide open spaces, and the Meseta is just flat, beautiful, open wheat fields with poppies coming out of the wheat. And the sky is massively huge, which I just love. And it
Yeah.
is quiet. And you have time to really think and reflect, which is part of the reason that I was there. So I really enjoyed that part of the walk. So
Okay.
yeah, the Meseta was gorgeous.
I mean, that
Yeah.
naturally leads on to the question is, what
Yeah.
was your calling? Did you have a reason to walk the Camino? You don't have to answer that if it's a personal.
Yeah. No, my primary reason for walking, I've come to some crossroads in my life lately, and I really wanted to have some time away from everything, to reflect, to think, to be in a place where I don't have a lot of distractions and just to kind of ponder what's next for me. And that part of the Camino was where I did the most of that, because you could walk and not be near anyone else. Denise and I on those days tended to split up. She has a faster gait than I have. Her legs are longer than mine. Okay. So sometimes she would just be off in the distance, and we would spend, half the day alone. And the Meseta was a perfect place for that, because she would take off at her pace, and I would just walk on my own, and she'd be off in the distance. And we both just had time to really think and try to sort things out in our minds. And that was a good thing.
Great. Okay. And hopefully you got some answers along the way.
Yeah, I did.
Cool.
Yeah.
So was that something you agreed together, that you would be okay to walk alone?
We did, yeah. And because we had read a lot and asked a lot of questions on some of the forums online, and read a lot about it. But we did kind of come to that agreement that we did not need to be joined at the hip the whole time. Okay. And that was really nice, because like you said, we were together 24/7. It was all the time. So, and it was fine. I mean, she was kind of there to do some thinking as well. And so for both of us, that was a nice thing. It really worked out well. And we'd get together, a few hours later and chat and talk and bounce ideas off of each other and talk about things. And it worked out well. And then we'd check into our hotel, have dinner, and go to sleep.
And then do it all again the next day.
And do it all again the next day. Yeah.
So how did you cope with things like, like, obviously I remember you saying, "Oh my God, my hair," and I remember you saying that, and
oh yeah,
that side awful. Of things, like changes of clothes. You're only wearing the same clothes day in, day out. As a lady, did you find that side of things difficult? As in no makeup and saying that? I think you did, if I remember your luxury items.
Yeah, my hair bugged me. I have really coarse, dry, long, thick hair, so I ended up just forgetting it most of the time. Okay. I brought Leggett bars, which are just kind of the wash everything bars. You can wash your hair, you can wash your clothes and everything else with a Leggett bar, and they're not exactly formulated for my hair.
A Leggett bar.
It was. Yeah, so about 4 days in, my hair was just out to here, and it was like straw, and it was awful. So I just gave up, and I just decided not to care about it. I'm not a girly girl anyway, so it was okay. But yeah, I mean, it was a little challenging, but you just get used to it. People worry about it, but out on the Camino, nobody cares. Nobody cares a whit what you look like, what your clothes look like. Everybody kind of is ripe by about the first week. So it really doesn't matter. You care at first, and then you just don't care at all. So
that is so true. But the thing is, when you actually get to the end, when you get to Santiago, you actually do.
Yeah.
Did you buy any new clothes? I know most of us did.
I did.
What did you buy?
I did. I bought a really cute pair of linen overalls that I wore the whole rest of the summer. I bought a little dress. I bought quite a few things, because I wanted to burn everything by the end. I didn't, because I didn't want to set Finisterre on fire like some people have done recently. But yeah, I was so over my clothes. And but yeah, I mean, it was okay. I washed. You do laundry every single day. You have to, unless you bring a lot of clothes, which then you have to carry a lot. But yeah, it worked out fine. And things, most nights it was very dry and warm, because we were there in early summer, and things dried quite quickly. So it was okay.
Okay. So I know a lot of people are worried about the amount of weight they've got in the pack, and having to carry stuff every day. What was your weight? Can you remember what you was carrying?
Yeah, so mine was 14 pounds.
Okay,
and and then by the end it was 12, because I had used up some of the things that I brought with me. But I mean, I jettisoned a couple of things as well. But yeah, it was 14 pounds, which is quite light. My husband, who backpacks, was shocked. He's like, I usually carry 50 pounds when I backpack, because I've got my tent and my food. And he was like, this is all you're taking? So yeah, you take very little. And my pack was only a 40-liter pack. So it was bigger than some people had, but I wasn't stuffed full. No. So, yeah.
And you were saying you used the what service? Did you use?
I did. I used Yakotrans.
Oh, yeah.
And do
you want to explain to people what that is?
Yeah, so Yakotrans is a luggage transfer service, and it's so convenient. There, every place you stay, hotels, albergues, hostels, no matter what, has little envelopes down by the front desk, and you fill out an envelope, put €5 in. That's usually what it costs. You attach it to your pack, leave it in the front lobby of wherever you're staying, give them a text the night before, and they pick it up and they deliver it to the next place you're staying. So that has its advantages. Obviously, you don't have to carry your pack. I just brought a little string bag along that I, brought my money and a little snack and my sunscreen and my hat in. And then, and you just walk without your pack, which is really nice. And I felt kind of guilty at first for doing that, but I have an issue with my right knee, and I think if I would not have done that, it might have ended my Camino. So for me, it was the difference between walking and being done. So
Okay. I mean,
yeah.
you're an experienced backpacker as well. So do you walk with walking poles?
I did not use walking poles. I've never used walking poles, even for backpacking here in the Sierra Nevada mountains. So, no, I did not bring poles. A lot of people swear by them, especially for downhill sections. A lot of people liked having them, but for me, it wasn't important, and I didn't miss having them at all.
No, I mean, if you're used to
Yeah.
backpacking and you're used to doing it without it, then no, that's
Yeah.
absolutely fine. So, yeah, some
Yeah.
people swear by them and other people just don't. So,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Okay,
Yeah.
right. So, couple of questions I've got here. Do you speak Spanish?
No. I live in Los Angeles, so I see and hear it every day, but I don't speak it.
Does Denise speak Spanish? I think she does,
A
doesn't she?
tiny, tiny bit.
She,
Just a little.
I do remember she was saying, because obviously you have a lot of Mexican people,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she was
And
saying
many,
that,
yeah.
was he saying it's completely different, the Mexican Spanish?
It's the accent is different. The way they speak is different. So it's for me, it was a little harder to understand people. Here, I can get the gist of what they're saying, but there, it was a little harder. Their R's are different. The way their inflection is a little bit different than here. So that made it difficult. We could manage. We both speak restaurant Spanish, which is about all you need. But
Restaurant Spanish, I like that.
yeah. But yeah, no, I don't speak Spanish.
Okay. So, right, I'm going to go. You ready for a quick fire round?
Yes.
Right, ready? Dum, da, dum, dum,
Okay, here
dum.
we go.
Okay, right. Did you bring anything that you never used?
A bandana.
Oh, really? You didn't use one?
Yeah. Nope.
Okay, okay. Your luxury item?
Mascara.
Sleeping bag or sleep sheet?
Neither.
Neither. Neither?
Neither. Neither. I know. It was an adventure a couple of nights. Yeah, I didn't bring either. So I anticipated that there would be at least a little blanket in all of the albergues. There was one in Saint Jean. There was one in Orasan. Then we got to Roncesvalles, no blankets. Every bunk had a fitted sheet around it. So I put on my jacket, I put on my leggings, and I wrapped myself in the fitted sheet, and that's how I slept.
Oh my God.
It wasn't great, but I slept. And then I think the other one that didn't have a blanket was Casa de la Abuela in Los
Okay.
Arcos as well.
Right.
So yeah, and they had plastic sheets, so that wasn't a good night.
I'm cringing thinking of it.
I know, it was bad.
Oh, that's
But we were in
hilarious.
hotels the rest of the time, so it was okay.
Yeah, and obviously with hotels or even a lot of the pensions where you've just upgraded, you get,
Right.
full sheets and blankets and stuff like that,
Yeah,
or even
regular
duvets.
beds.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
regular beds. That's the word.
yeah, comfortable.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you do much training?
I did. I started right as soon as we decided we were going to go. That was just after Christmas.
Okay.
So I started walking. I work in a place it's in the hills. So every day, well, not every day, but 2 to 3 days a week after work, I would change and just take off and walk hills. And then, so I'd try to do between 4 and 6 miles after work every day.
Wow.
And then
Okay.
on the weekends, I live near the beach, so I would just hit one of the beach sidewalks and just head south and keep walking until I couldn't walk anymore. So I live in Long Beach, so I would walk sometimes to the Huntington Beach Pier, sometimes down to Newport Beach, and that's like anywhere from 11 to 15 miles. So I'd take a Saturday and just start walking south, and that was good. Although I have to say, everybody asks, was your training sufficient for the Camino? And honestly, when I think back on it, I think there's really nothing you can do to adequately prepare yourself, because walking every day, all day, for 14 to 20 miles a day, I don't think you can prepare your body for that. Your body's going to react how it's going to react. And, things happen. And I don't think I could have anticipated the kinds of things that your body says back to you when you're doing that to it.
If anything, that training that you did got you through those first few days. Because if you hadn't have put any sort of training in, you really would have suffered. And I saw quite a few people who weren't necessarily that fit, and they were puffing and panting like 5 minutes into the walk. And with the heat as well, you guys are used to the heat to a certain degree, but
we are.
If you're from Europe, as in the UK, we were certainly not used to the heat, so we were doing.
No, I think people from some places, it's kind of a shock almost how hot it can be out there. The other thing I think is really important to do is toughen up your feet. Wear the shoes you're going to wear. Let them rub your feet in the places that it's going to rub, and try to get some good calluses built up. Because there were places on my feet that were getting blisters when I started to train, and they didn't get blisters there out on the Camino. It was other places, but at least I saved that part of my feet. So that's the other kind of thing about the training that I think is important.
How did you cope with the blisters? Was you using Compeed, or was you using
so what I did
needles?
With my feet, I never popped my blisters. I never used needles to pop them. I just let them be. And I covered them up with Compeed. And the Compeed is a little, we can't get it here. I don't know if you guys have it over in Europe, but
we use it all the time.
Yeah, that's so funny, because we can't get it here. We have to order it off Amazon because they don't sell it anywhere. But so anybody in the US, Compeed is it's like a plaster. It's like a second skin. So if you use moleskin, it's similar to moleskin, but it's thin and you really can't see it once you peel the sticky stuff off. But it fit right over my blisters, and it kept them from getting worse. And I was able to walk. I mean, you could feel them still, but it worked out okay. So Compeed isn't cheap. And I think I probably spent easily 60, 70 euros on Compeed along the way. I used a lot of it. I used 3 or 4, sometimes 5 a day, and that was a little expensive, but it was entirely worth it. So
would you spend, I think the biggest shock for me was actually how much I spent on food and things like that. When you add that up as well, at the end of the day, obviously there was 2 of us, there was 2 of you as well. But that, even though the accommodation is really cheap, and wine is like, you have a bottle of wine and a bottle of water, the water would be more expensive than the wine. And it was just crazy.
And I mean, with the best thing about the pilgrim meals, and what everybody comments on there, is when you buy a pilgrim meal for 8 euros or 10 euros, not only do you get an appetizer and a very good sized entree, but they bring you wine, and then they bring you more wine. And if you empty that bottle, they bring you another bottle. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Especially to people from countries like ours, where they sell you a little glass for $14, that has that much wine in it. I mean, amazing.
Saying that, when you talk about value for money, the pilgrim meals are extremely good value for money.
They are extremely good value.
And there's so much food. Their starters for us are like, you have spaghetti bolognese that you would have here for a main. That would be a starter. And then you'd have something else on top of that. So, but it's if you stop at every cafe, like we both know somebody who stopped at every single cafe, bless her, and have tortilla or cafe con leche. If you do that throughout the day, I think you probably it's worth having a budget and trying to stick to that budget. I
think so too. I agree. Yeah, we would stop usually probably twice at cafes during the day, because we didn't like to eat too much while we were walking. We would wait until we got to our destination. But you're right. I mean, it's not expensive, but a lot of little expenses can add up. So you kind of have to decide what you're going to do, I think, before you go. But it is
Yeah.
fun to stop at cafes and talk to everybody and have a coffee.
It has to be done, doesn't it? Cafe con leche
Yeah.
is the first word everybody learns.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Absolutely. Yep.
okay. Let's talk guidebooks then. So,
Uh-huh.
did you have a guidebook? What guidebook do you use?
Yeah, so I used this one. This is the
Oh,
one
okay.
by, yeah, this is by, it's called Camino de Santiago. I don't have my glasses. So it's by Dinteman and Landis, and we found it to be really accurate for the most part. There were a few parts we disagreed with, like they talked about the difficulty of one part, and we thought it wasn't difficult at all. And then they would say a part is easy, and we thought that wasn't easy. So, but I think it's all a matter of perspective. But I found the directions in that book were quite good. It
Okay.
gave you landmarks to watch for, gave basic historical information. So it was a good guidebook.
Okay. And did you go into many of the churches and things like that? Or-
We did. We went into quite a few churches. I enjoy that. And they all have, all these little country churches that have amazing pieces of art and altar pieces. And usually there's often an elderly person in there to make a little extra money. They stand and they will stamp your passport for you for, just a few cents. And so, yeah, that was an interesting experience is seeing all of those.
I've just written the blog on Astorga to Rabanal.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to catch up with all my blogs. And there
Hmm.
was a little lady outside Astorga in a dinky little church. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah.
And it
I
had
don't,
the Fountain of Health outside.
yeah. I don't
Um,
think I saw that one.
and Sue was talking to her, and
Hmm.
this lady was 83 years old. She drank from that Fountain of Health every day, and she'd never had a single bit of illness in her life.
Wow.
And I was quite amazed. But it was a dinky little church.
Oh, yeah. Some of them are extremely small. I mean, some of them have, 3 or 4 benches on each side, and the roof is kind of right here, and they're dark and beautiful. But then you start looking around, and, the art is just spectacular from when these places apparently had a lot more money. And now
Yeah,
they're just sitting out there, and you can just walk in and out. Yeah.
yeah, that's true. Would you
Yeah.
consider yourself a religious person?
I consider myself a spiritual person. I'm not terribly religious, but on the Camino, it is so designed for people who want to have that religious experience. And you can go as someone who wants that, or you can go as someone who just needs time to think, like I did. And a lot of people were out there too, just for the physical challenge of it. Can I do this 500-mile walk? And so and everyone seems to be quite accepting of everyone else and their reasons for being there. I never felt judged for not being Catholic. And, there were plenty of people out there just for everybody you met had a different reason for being there. And everybody was open to everyone else. It was a lovely atmosphere.
That's what makes it so interesting, though, isn't it? It's the stories
Hmm.
behind the
Yeah.
people that you meet, as well as the
Yeah.
scenery,
Yes.
the food, and just the ambience of the place is
Yeah.
just a little slice of miracle, if you ask me. I think it's an amazing place.
Absolutely, it is.
So,
Unique in the world.
would you say that was there anything that completely surprised you about the Camino? Is there anything that you thought, okay, perhaps that wasn't
Yeah,
what I expected, in a good way or a bad
yeah.
way?
Uh, Well, the bad way, I'll do that one first. I was very shocked at how bad my feet hurt at the end of the day.
Really?
Yeah, after about 15 miles, I hit this wall and my feet would start to ache. And I've never had that experience before with all the hiking I've done in my life. I think it's just the monotony of the same thing at the same speed all day. So that really surprised me. I would get to where we were going and my feet would just ache, ache, ache. It was a little miserable, not every day, but many days. So that surprised me. But I was not expecting to meet so many great people along the way. I thought, oh, we'll go, we'll chat with people, but I didn't expect to really make so many wonderful connections with people. Like I got to know you guys really well. And then there's another woman, Sue, who, we walked with a bit, and I'm actually seeing her on Sunday. We're going to get
Are
together. She
you?
lives not far from me. Yeah, we're going to get together
Yay!
and chat. Yeah, she's in major Camino withdrawal. She wants to go back so bad. She's like, I just want to get together and talk about it. So we're going to get together. But yeah, I mean, that really surprised me is how many amazing people you meet and how open almost everyone is just to really getting to know each other and share and just you can sit for hours with people and
Yeah,
it's just how it's done. And
it
that
is.
surprised me a lot. Hmm.
So, who did you walk in? When you walked into Santiago, um,
Yeah,
what
it
was
was
that
just,
experience like?
oh, It was fantastic. It was just Denise and I.
Okay.
So we walked that morning from whatever the previous main town was that's kind of on pace with the guidebooks. We walked from there. But walking into Santiago, when you walk in to head into the center of the city where the cathedral is, I think the city purposely makes it a little dramatic for you. They hire bagpipers, Galician bagpipers. When you go through the archway into the city, there's someone playing the Galician bagpipes there, and it was always a different person. We stayed in Santiago for 3 days, and I think they just have people do this to make it something memorable for people. So
Yeah.
walked in, went all the way down the steps through the arch and into the square. And it is just this feeling of relief almost that washes over you, and accomplishment. We both cried, of course, because it was just, you can't believe that you've made it there. You keep looking at pictures of the cathedral and knowing that it's there at the end of your walk, but as you're walking, it just seems like I'm never, ever, ever going to get there. But then when you do, it is just, there's an emotional release. There's a feeling of accomplishment. There is a sense of the history of the place. To me, the feeling that I am one of millions over 1,000 years that have done this, to me, that was really profound. I love the feeling that I'm tied to this history in this place now. So yeah, it was a pretty spectacular experience, and everybody has a different reaction. Some people I watch, they just kind of fall to the ground and, look at the cathedral and they're very overwhelmed by it. Other people are standing there practically like cheerleaders, yay, we did it, screaming and yelling, jumping up and down, so everybody has a different reaction, but mine was very emotional. I was just thrilled to be there. Not happy that it was over, because I kind of didn't want it to be over, but just a sense of, wow, this is pretty amazing just to be a part of this history.
Well, that trip for you certainly wasn't over, because actually a few days after that we met you, and it was your idea actually, and me and Rachel nicked your idea, and we hired a car from Santiago Airport, and we went on a bit of a road trip.
We did.
And then we met you actually at Finisterre.
Yeah.
How did that feel? Did that feel more like the end than Santiago, or?
It was like the end part 2, because traditionally a lot of people, have continue walking past Santiago for several more days and end up at Finisterre or Murcia. So to drive out there, it was a good thing. I'm happy that we did, again, because when the Camino was walked in medieval times, that was considered the end of the earth. That's where people felt the earth ended. So just to sit out on the cliffs at Finisterre and look out at the ocean and think, this is where it ends. This is the last piece of it. So for me, that Santiago was an accomplishment, a tying into the physical history of the Camino. Finisterre was more, this is as far as I can go. I can't go farther even if I want to. So this is where I have to end. So to me, I think Finisterre Murcia was the end and the last piece of it for me.
Yeah, I agree. I felt like there was closure to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, we spent a fabulous day together. Have you still got your ring?
I do. It's right here. I do. Yeah. See.
So we all got, just if you can see, we all got rings. Which has Ultreya, which means onwards, doesn't it?
Yep. Yeah. Keep going onwards. Keep moving forward.
Yeah, so and we all got the rings, which was really lovely, and there's a nice photo of us all with our hands entwined, with all showing our rings, which is really
it's a
nice.
Great picture. Yeah.
So, and then obviously we went on to Murcia as well, so that was it.
Yeah, it was a nice end.
Anyway, is there anything else that you want to share? If somebody is thinking about going on the Camino, they're a little bit apprehensive. Perhaps they're a female on her own and they're thinking about it, but they're perhaps a bit scared, or they might think they're perhaps not fit enough to do it. What advice would you say?
I think as far as being worried if you're wanting to walk alone as a woman, I would not hesitate. If you go during the season when most people are out there, and most people are walking between March and November, you'll never be alone. There are always people within sight. If you're staying in albergues, you can easily meet other people and say, hey, can I walk with you? We had plenty of people walk with us who asked to walk with us because they just wanted company. Or they had been with a group and that group had kind of wandered off and they'd split up. So, and we met plenty of women walking on their own, and they all, you meet different people. You're always within sight of someone. And a lot of on the trail, quite a bit, especially in Galicia, the local civil guard also patrols the trails. We had several mounted civil guards. There were, you'd look ahead and there would be a little civil guard car coming down the dirt path in a few places. So you're never really by yourself. I never had anywhere on the Camino where I felt like, ooh, I've got to watch out and watch my back. I never felt like that once. Most of it's either very pastoral, or you're walking through towns that have plenty of people just going about their business. So I wouldn't hesitate at all as far as personal safety goes.
Okay. And you felt safe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely did. Yeah. Even days when Denise and I would split and she'd go on and I'd be on my own, no problem. Yeah. Never worried at all.
Because there's always, this is obviously talking about the French route. I'm not sure about the other routes.
Yeah.
I've heard stories about the Portuguese route where, there's perhaps it's not as safe, maybe. I don't know. But there's just not as many people, I think. And the infrastructure's perhaps not there as much.
Exactly. That's one nice thing about the Frances is there's over 450 albergues, I believe I read, along the way. So there is every little village you come into just about has a place to stay. If you feel uncomfortable, you check into an albergue. So I really feel like, I've heard like the Primitivo is one that's quite isolated. And people do have good experiences. Personally, I don't think I would do it alone just because I don't know, that's my comfort level. But the Frances, I wouldn't hesitate.
Okay, well, I'm out doing the English route, and apparently that's meant to be quite quiet. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I shall report back to everybody and let you know how safe I felt on that route.
Wait.
You have to watch my vlogs. So
yeah.
Anyway, as always, I've asked you to prepare a quotation of the day.
Oh.
I know, and Anita couldn't decide. She's got a few there.
I have 5 or 6. So I don't know. I don't know. I wrote them all out last night, and there are a couple. Can I pick 2?
You can pick 2. Go for it.
I'll pick 2. All right. So one is a very simple quote, and it's from Eleanor Roosevelt, one of our first ladies here.
Yeah.
And it's just simple, but it rings so true for me. She said, "You must do the thing that you think you cannot do," which I love.
Outside your comfort zone.
Completely. Yeah. And for me, that just rings to the Camino. The first couple of days out there, I just thought, there's no way I can finish 500 miles. What am I thinking? Who do I think I am? But, you must try it. You must do it. And then the other one, this one's a little longer. Okay. So I like this one, though, because it really applies to the Camino. The first word is travel, but I would replace the first word with the Camino. So here's how I would read this quote. "The Camino is more than the seeing of sights. It is a change that goes on, deep and permanent in the ideas of living."
Like, you need to read that again. Say it slow.
I will.
Say it slow.
I will. So, travel is more than the seeing of sights. It's a change that goes on, deep and permanent, in the ideas of living.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah, that is so good.
Yeah.
Who's that by?
I love it. I don't know. I found it. It was in a book. I found it a long time ago, and I honestly don't remember where I got it from. But I remember writing it down in my diary and thinking, oh, that is so true, especially after having walked the Camino, because it changes you on the inside.
It does.
It really does.
It does.
So
how have things changed for you when you got back?
It's really difficult to describe. For me, I feel more myself than I've felt for a long time. And to me, it just feels like... And the way I've described it to people, it's almost like hitting a reset button in your head.
Okay, I like that.
And I don't know quite how to just explain that, but it's like you've hit the reset button. You are kind of yourself again. Life is complicated. Life is busy. Life can be overwhelming. And getting out and doing something like that, you just get to be yourself for 32, 35, 40 days. And it kind of helps you kind of get back to who you are. And for me, that's how it feels.
The reset button as well. Do you know, no one else has said that, but that's exactly what it's like. It's like you go back to your true self.
Yeah, very much so.
And things that you were perhaps pretending to be a little bit, or not pretending, they just sort of fade away, and the real you comes forward.
That's how it feels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Interesting.
Anita, you've been brilliant. please give my love to Denise.
I will.
Yeah, and I'm speaking. I spoke with Norman. I spoke with
Yeah.
Norman. I've interviewed Sue,
Yeah.
Luca. Yeah, all the
Yeah.
Camino family.
Oh, I can't
Um,
wait to watch them.
and Julie wanted to be here today, but then she's had to work because she thought you was on
Oh.
Sunday because I got the
Oh.
dates wrong.
Oh.
So she sent her love as well. So
Oh,
thank
yeah.
you
Say
very much.
hi to her for me.
Oh well, right. I'm going to let you go to work.
All right.
Thank you for getting up so early this morning. It's really
Yeah.
appreciated. And
Happy to
you
do
look
it.
really well.
Thank you very much. You're so sweet.
I'll see you on Facebook, yeah?
Okay,
All
sounds
right.
good.
Take care.
Bye.
Ta-da. Bye bye.
All right. Bye.